There is a truth your soul has always known, but your mind often forgets, that from the moment you entered this life, a presence has walked with you, silent yet powerful, protecting and guiding you in every step. That is the guardian angel. I have seen them in the dim light of dreams, in the moments when your heart trembled at a danger that had no name. They are messengers of the Creator, ones who never leave your side. Scripture has engraved this truth. He will command his angels concerning you to guard you in all your ways. And those words are not just sentences written for an ancient people, but a reality for every soul, including you today. I have seen that energy surround each person, sometimes faint when faith is weak, sometimes blazing like a field of fire when the soul opens fully. The mission of angels is not simply to decorate the imagination. They are the invisible current flowing through life. They are the sudden warning when you are about to step wrong, the strange comfort when you are in despair, the hand pulling you from the abyss when you thought you were lost. At times people call it intuition, at times luck, but in truth it is the whisper of angels, the hidden heartbeat of your soul connecting with heaven. When I look into the Akashic records, I see that no soul comes into this world alone. Every birth is placed under the guardianship of a messenger, and that angel is like a mirror, reflecting your deepest essence, a companion not only in this life, but also in the journeys beyond death. Many times I have seen their presence clearly, like a beam of white light, standing by the bed of someone about to pass away, or a gentle blue glow surrounding the one who prays in the dark. And the wonder is that they do not come to impose. They come to remind, to awaken, to help you rediscover truth within yourself. Guardian angels do not replace free will, but they are like a river always flowing toward the light. And if you open your heart, you will find your steps naturally guided toward the doors you are meant to open. In silence, I often feel them most near, for their whisper is soft as breath. Es une inspiration, a peace without reason. This is how angels let you know that you are never lost. People often ask me how to know if angels are truly present. I answer that when your heart vibrates with peace, when you escape a danger reason cannot explain, when you forgive someone your heart thought it could never forgive, then those are the footprints of angels. Every soul is entrusted to an angel, and that angel also reflects the zodiac under which you were born. For the sky is not only stars, but a map of rays and sacred arrangements. So it is no wonder that each constellation is connected with an angel. This is not chance, but resonance between the universe and the soul. Remember, this presence is not for you to worship as an idol, but to make you aware that you are always upheld, even when you wander in darkness. The light remains, waiting for you to return. I say these things not to surprise you, but to awaken the deep memory within your soul. For the soul has already known, already met, already heard long ago. Only the worldly mind forgets. When you pray, when you sink into dreams, when you open yourself in faith, you will see more clearly this presence, and then you will understand you never walk alone. This is certain, an unchanging truth, that every person has a guardian angel, not only to protect, but to remind you that you belong to the eternal source of light. Aries carries within the flame of life's beginning, and the soul is entrusted to Ariel, the Lion of God, the angel of strength and courage. When I look into the lines of light of the Aries soul, I see the blazing fire, the urge to begin, to go ahead, to conquer. And Ariel stands right there like a radiant mirror, urging yet restraining. For fire can warm but also consume. Ariel is the angel of nature, of the connection between earth and heaven, reminding that true strength is not only to walk faster than others, but to align your breath with the rhythm of the universe. When the Aries soul understands this, they are not only pioneers, but keepers of the flame for humanity. Yet Ariel also shows the danger of haste. When the soul only desires conquest and forgets patience, then the angel must stand between, reminding that waiting is sometimes the greatest strength. I have seen Aries souls wounded, not by enemies, but by their own steps, taken too fast. And Ariel appears in golden light to heal, to encourage, and to teach them that the greatest courage is to restrain the fire within. When turning to Taurus, I see Chamuel, the angel of love and peace, standing in soft rose light. Taurus longs for stability, for firmness like the earth. But because of this, they easily bind themselves to what is tangible, clinging to possessions, to people or situations, as if letting go would mean losing everything. Chamuel does not come to destroy, but to expand, to teach that true love is not possession, but the flow of grace. When I pray with the Taurus soul, I see Chamuel place his hand upon their heart, loosening the invisible cord that binds, so they may feel a peace the world cannot give. The Taurus who opens their heart to Chamuel learns that safety is not in what they hold, but in the eternal love of God. Next is Gemini, where I see Zadkiel appear in deep violet, the angel of forgiveness and righteousness. Gemini is the soul of wind, quick, intelligent, always seeking knowledge, yet easily pulled into fragments of thought, scattered and restless. Zadkiel comes as a calm breeze, bringing the lesson that there is no true freedom while carrying the weight of resentment or regret. I have seen many Geminis who laugh and move quickly, but deep inside cling to old wounds, to memories they cannot release. Zadkiel whispers that the wind is only light when it carries no burden, and when Gemini truly forgives, first themselves and then others, they become free, soaring like a bird unchained. To Cancer, I see Gabriel, the great messenger of heaven, the one who announced the birth of the Savior. Gabriel stands in pure white light, close to Cancer souls who are born with sensitive hearts, who love family, who are easily wounded by the world's coldness. Gabriel gives them the gift of communication with heaven, awakening the ability to hear divine messages. I see Cancer souls often feeling too fragile, but this very fragility is the doorway to receiving heavenly messages. When they know that sensitivity is not a burden, but a gift, they become bearers of comfort, as Gabriel himself bore the promise of salvation to humankind. Then comes Leo, and I see Michael, the archangel with the sword of fire, radiant as the sun, mighty yet filled with loyalty. Those born under Leo are often given strength and brilliance, but this too is a trial. For their light may turn into pride that overshadows the soul. Michael stands as a mirror, teaching that true strength is not the brilliance that makes others bow, but loyalty to the divine will, the courage to stand for truth, even at great cost. I see Michael not only fighting darkness, but also escorting souls after death, leading them across the threshold back to eternal light. Leo, united with Michael, learns that strength is not only outward, but in humility and faithfulness. For Virgo, I see Raphael appear in emerald light, the angel of healing. Virgo longs for purity, for all things to be whole. But this very perfectionism makes them vulnerable, weary, closed. Raphael places his hand upon them, soothing, healing not only the body, but also the mind and the soul. Libra is covered by the gentle golden light of Jophiel, the angel of wisdom and divine beauty. Libra souls long for balance and justice. They see the world as a scale, always in motion. And Jophiel comes to show that true balance is not placing equal weights on both sides, but seeing beauty even in chaos and suffering. I see Libra souls often torn between reason and emotion, between cold justice and soft mercy, and it is Jophiel who whispers that justice is not only punishment but the harmony of truth and compassion. When Libra learns this, they become bearers of light, helping the world see that the beauty of the soul is not in perfection, but in the ability to recognize light even in darkness. Moving to Scorpio, I see Jeremiel, the angel of memory and judgment, appearing in deep violet, quiet and profound as waters. Scorpios often carry intense emotions, a thirst to uncover mystery, yet are easily chained by memory and unhealed pain. Jeremiel does not come to make them forget, but to help them remember rightly, to remember in order to learn, to transform memory into a lesson of freedom. I have seen many dreams where Scorpio is led back to old images, like a soul's review, not to condemn, but to lead toward healing. When they dare to look back without fear, when they forgive the past, they discover that even in wounds lies the seed of light. For Sagittarius, I see Raguel standing in blue light, the angel of justice and harmony. Sagittarius is always a soul longing for journeys, expansion, and freedom. But freedom cannot exist without justice. And Raguel comes to remind that every journey, every adventure is not to flee injustice, but to discover the eternal justice of heaven within themselves. I see many Sagittarians fighting against injustice, but Raguel shows them that true justice does not come from outside, but from integrity within the soul. When Sagittarius learns that divine justice has been planted in them, they become those who bring justice to lands, thirsty for truth. Turning to Capricorn, I see Azrael, the angel of transition and comfort of souls, standing in soft to pale gold. Capricorns often bear heavy responsibility, climbing as though ascending mountains, sometimes forgetting themselves, and Azrael appears not to bring fear, but to teach that death is not an end, but a doorway to another journey. I see Capricorn souls often carrying fear of loss, but Azrael whispers that there is no ending, only transition, and if they accept impermanence, they become teachers, passing on to the next generation the wisdom forged through trial and release. For Aquarius, I see Uriel, the radiant light of divine intellect, the angel of revelation. Aquarius carries an open mind, a thirst for renewal, at times rebellious, yet it is Uriel who comes to transform rebellion into the new light of conscience. I see Uriel as a flame shining into hidden corners of the soul. So Aquarius can see truths the world is not ready to accept. They are chosen to bear intuitive knowledge, to illuminate anage, and when they hear Uriel's voice within, they become pioneers, opening the path for other souls. Finally, Pisces, I see Sandalphon, the angel who lifts prayers, standing like a column of light, linking earth and heaven. Pisces is the soul of the ocean of emotions, easily dissolved, easily losing themselves, but Sandalphon lifts each of their prayers upward, turning vast feelings into a song that resounds in heaven. I see many Pisces souls believing sensitivity is weakness, but Sandalphon shows that when they lift their prayer with a true heart, it never falls to the ground, but is carried upward, like fragrance rising to heaven. The lesson of Pisces is to turn sensitivity into a bridge, so they are not only dreamers, but mediators of love between humanity and God. And so 12 signs of the zodiac, 12 guardian angels, each carrying a lesson, a light, a mission, all reflecting the greater truth that no soul is ever forgotten. Taurus has given Chamuel, the angel of love and peace. Those born under this sign often long for stability, yet they cling so tightly that they dare not let go. Chamuel leads them to a love not limited by the material, a peace that surpasses all worries. In my vision, Chamuel comes in gentle rose light, soothing the closed heart, opening the path back to the eternal love of God. I have seen in many souls that the most dangerous thing is not the fierceness of darkness, but the indifference of the mind. When the soul no longer seeks, then even the brightest light becomes meaningless, and it is there that doors open to invisible forces. I realized that the devil does not usually appear with terrifying forms, but with familiar ideas, small compromises, the weariness that makes a person say, I do not need to pray today. I do not need to forgive this person. I do not need to stand for the truth. I have seen many souls fail, not because they commit great sins, but because they let their minds drift away from the source of light, little by little. Therefore, I emphasize that daily vigilance is the only armor that protects the soul. God never abandons, but the soul must keep its lamp. I see clearly in many visions that when a soul kneels even once with true sincerity, the light of heaven immediately covers them. But when a soul refuses the invitation again and again, a dense silence surrounds them, and they can no longer hear the whisper of angels. I have witnessed that scene in many dreams, where lost souls walk through a black city. The streetlights no longer shine, and only a few small lamps of the faithful remain burning. They are the lighthouses the darkness cannot swallow. From that, I understand that the strength of a vigilant soul can change the atmosphere around them, can preserve hope for a whole family, even for a nation. But the only condition is that they must not let the flame of prayer and faith go out. I also see clearly that the devil does not tremble before empty sermons. It only trembles when it hears prayers rising from a soul truly united with the living one. I once saw a soul become so radiant in prayer that the dark arrows fired at them fell to ashes, and the guardian angel standing beside them laughed loudly, for the enemy had lost all power there. This tells me that prayer is not ritual, but the opening of a door so that the power of heaven may pour into a thirsty soul. When a soul truly opens, the angel can act, but when they close, the angel only stands and watches in sorrow because of the law of free will. I have often seen angels weep beside human souls, not because of failure, but because they must respect that person's choice. And I know more clearly than ever that each small daily decision accumulates into a great destiny. Choosing light or darkness does not happen in grand battles, but in the most ordinary moments, like an act of forgiveness, an honest date, a humble thought. I understand that the spiritual world is a subtle web, each thought a vibration, and that vibration either opens the door for angels or for demons. Therefore, I say to all who seek truth that the greatest enemy is not outside, but in your own thinking. When you allow darkness to repeat a false idea, it becomes chains that bind. But when you let light be sown and nourished, it becomes wings of liberation. I have seen souls lifted up simply because they chose to believe a promise of God rather than believe in their own failure. All of this makes me certain that the battle of the soul is real. Guardian angels are real, and the power of choice is real. And whoever dares to stand firm in the light will never be abandoned, even if the whole world around sinks into night. Gemini is a seeker of knowledge, but easily entangled in the fragmentation of the mind. Zadkiel, the angel of forgiveness, comes to remove the inner chains. I often emphasize that no one is truly free until they forgive themselves. Zadkiel whispers, the wind is only light when it carries no burden. The Gemini, when releasing regret, will truly soar on the wings of the soul. I have seen many souls who think that light is given only to the chosen, but in visions I perceive the opposite truth. The light is always there, and only needs the soul to open for it to flood in like rain refreshing parched ground. Yet people often erect fences of doubt, condemning themselves with thoughts. like I am not worthy, I have failed, I have sinned too much, and those self-condemnations become locked doors that keep the light out. I see clearly that angels never abandon. They stand there patient, waiting, longing to act. But by the law of free will, they cannot intervene when people stubbornly cling to their chains. I have seen in many dreams a soul sitting in a dark room with the key right before them. Yet they do not stoop to pick it up. They wait for a miracle from outside while deliverance is within reach. That image taught me that the greatest power God gave humans is choice. And that choice is exercised not only at great turning points, but in every ordinary second. I saw a poor man kneel in a shabby hut with nothing but rough hands and a broken heart. And when he called out in true faith, the room suddenly shone like a temple, and angels covered him with a cloak of radiant fire. And I knew that in that moment he was richer than any earthly kingdom. Likewise, I saw a powerful man in a palace whose mind was closed, mouthing prayers as ritual. And the angel simply stood at the door and would not enter because there was no sincere faith, no real opening of the heart. That difference made me understand that position, wealth, or learning do not determine the presence of angels, but humility and sincerity of heart do. I also saw souls pass through heavy trials, illness, loss, betrayal, and they wonder why angels are silent. But in visions I see angels standing right there with their hands on those shoulders and every tear collected like pearls. Non lost, all becoming prayers that rise before the throne of the Most High. And I understand that silence is not abandonment, but the time angels hold them in invisible arms, so they may learn to be strong in the dark. I have seen souls who overcome such trials become so radiant that many others find their way by that light. For one faithful person can open a door of hope for those around them. I was shown that a soul never fights alone. When one prays, not only one angel comes, but many join, and even souls that rest in light are permitted to intercede, forming a wall of light the darkness cannot penetrate. I see that scene as a wall of fire around the praying soul, the enemy gnashing teeth outside, but having no right to enter. And this convinces me that the power of a true prayer can change the destiny not only of an individual, but of a whole family and even a nation. Yet I also see many souls miss this because they think prayer is weakness, the voice of the defeated. But in visions I perceive the opposite. Prayer is the strategist of the warrior. The way a soul opens to the inexhaustible resource it lacks, the way a small human connects with the infinite river of heavenly power. I saw a mother pray for a lost child, and each of her words was like a bright pearl woven into a long, strong cord that pulled the child's soul back from the abyss. And angels use that cord to rescue, which taught me that no prayer is lost. All are kept in heaven's treasury. And when the right time comes, they become doors to solutions. I also learned that darkness is craftier than many think. It does not always come violently, but often by weariness that causes the soul to stop praying, to stop seeking, to stop forgiving. And in that moment, darkness wins. I have seen a once radiant soul grow cold simply because they believed prayer no longer worked. And when they let go, angels had to step back, not out of desire to abandon, but because of the law of choice. I remember this and tell you, never let fatigue steal the flame of prayer. For a single spark can light an entire long night. And I know that at all times, even when the soul feels nothing, prayer is working like an underground river, flowing through rock until spring arrives, and it bursts forth as a stream. I have seen in many visions souls rise after long drought, and when they pray again, the fire blazes hotter than before. For the ashes had accumulated as fuel for a new flame. Cancer are souls of family and nurture. Gabriel, the great messenger, once brought the news to Mary about the birth of the Savior. With cancer, Gabriel opens the ability to convey the message of love In nights when you feel too sensitive or wounded, remember this: sensitivity is not a burden, but a channel to hear the voice of heaven. In many visions, it is shown clearly that the battle of the soul is not only to face darkness, but also to learn how to recognize the light at work in the most ordinary details of life. Because light does not always appear in grand miracles, it often hides in small actions that human eyes overlook, like a forgiving smile, a kind gesture, an honest word. And those very moments open the door for the guardian angel to intervene more powerfully than ever. For heaven does not seek display, but sincerity arising from the heart. People often ask why angels do not act immediately when they cry out. But the answer shown in vision is that angels only work in harmony with the law of God. And that law is not coercion, but the flow of freedom. If the soul does not agree, if the mind does not open, then even light stops at the threshold, waiting patiently. I see clearly that this opening of the heart is not a vague idea, but a very practical decision. When a soul chooses to believe instead of doubt, to pray instead of complain, to forgive instead of hold anger, then they have opened doors they themselves did not know, and angels step in to prepare the way, to protect, to liefde, to guide each step, sometimes by dreams, sometimes by sudden intuition, sometimes by the appearance of an unexpected person, many times in spiritual visions. What people thought was coincidence was the exact arrangement of heaven, like when a lost person meets an old friend at the right moment, or when a job door opens after long despair. All are signs that angels are working silently. So the soul does not sink in darkness. The subtlety of angels makes many think they are not present. But in the deeper layer, I see their every movement, gentle as wind, steady as heartbeat, not boastful, not noisy, but more effective than all earthly powers. There are souls who have stood on the brink of destruction, covered by darkness, crushed by failure, but with only a small spark of determination, a simple cry, "Save me." Immediately, heaven trembles and light pours down, breaking chains they never thought they could escape. And once freed, they become witnesses to the truth that no darkness can hold a soul that opens the door to light. I realize that such deliverance is not only for the individual, but also spreads through the bloodline. For I have often seen that when one soul returns to light, their children, their parents, their siblings are also touched, like one candle lighting others until the whole dark room glows. This makes clear that the decision of one person is never only theirs, but a link binding many souls in the greater web of life. And angels know this, so they are infinitely patient. Because the return of one soul can change the destiny of generations, in those holy images I also see clearly that the enemy of souls understands this. So it always tries to make humans think their choices are unimportant, that small actions do not matter, that prayer is useless, that forgiveness only makes one weak. And with such lies, it keeps souls under darkness. But when truth is revealed, the soul knows that every thought is a seed, every action a stream, and all combine into a path leading either to light or to darkness. There is no neutral ground. And this awareness becomes the strength to choose wisely. I see clearly that the mission of guardian angels is not only to protect from accidents, they are also invisible teachers, leading souls to learn lessons, without which maturity is never complete. Because the purpose of protection is not to keep humans comfortable, but to keep them from destruction until they have learned what is needed to become stronger and more radiant. That is why there are times angels allow trials, not to make the soul fall, but so they may discover the strength within themselves and recognize the faithfulness of light in every circumstance. I realize that the glory of a soul is not to live without ever falling, but to fall many times and rise each time with wider wings of faith, with vision, Father, with a heart softer toward those who suffer, This makes me understand that failure is not the end, but part of the training, and guardian angels always stand there, hand extended, ready to lift whenever the soul decides to rise again. When this truth sinks in, the soul no longer fears darkness as before, for they know light is never extinguished, and the companionship of angels is certain, unchanging, not based on merit but on love that surpasses all barriers. Leo carries within the light of the sun, and the archangel Michael is its mirror. Michael fights against darkness just as Leo must fight against pride within their own heart. I see Michael not only as a warrior but also as the one who escorts souls after death, leading them into the kingdom of light. For Leo, the lesson is that true strength does not lie in outward brilliance but in loyalty to the divine will. In the visions given, the truth appears that the strength of the soul does not come from avoiding darkness, but from walking through it with light, and it is in the depth of trial that the guardian angel shows himself most clearly, for at that moment all human strength is gone, and only simple faith remains, like a small flame, yet enough for heaven to breathe into a torch that no force can extinguish. When the soul is covered by fear, when whispers of failure echo, when darkness creates the illusion that there is no way out, the angel stands at the threshold, waiting for the final decision. And if the soul chooses to return to light, then at once the invisible walls collapse. The enemy loses its power, and the path opens as clear as the sun after a storm. This choice reveals the true essence of the soul, not perfection, not power, but loyalty in small things, steadfastness when nothing supports, and persistence in keeping the flame of faith against the wind. I see in the sacred flow that angels do not only come to protect individuals, they also place souls where light can spread farther, and often the suffering one endures, becomes the bridge for hundreds of others to pass through their darkness to find light. A mother crying at night for her lost child sends up prayers that become a sound guiding other grieving mothers. A father faithful in poverty becomes a witness to his children of the value of trust. And these small things carry eternal weight in the world of souls. This truth shows that angels do not act according to human comfort, but according to the great plan of God. And in that plan, no tear is wasted, no trial meaningless, all are woven into a tapestry that only at life's end or in the realm of light can the soul see whole. The enemy knows this, so it seeks to cut off patience, to make people give up midway, to keep them from waiting for the harvest, to make them believe darkness is destiny. And by such lies it steals the glory prepared for them. But when the soul holds fast to the angel in loyalty, they will see each link of trial join into a glorious road, and they themselves will become witnesses that light triumphs over all. I realize that angelic companionship is not limited to one life, for many times the prayers of ancestors still work upon their descendants, like underground rivers flowing through generations, and angels work to complete what was sown by those before. A grandmother's prayer may protect a grandson in war. A father's act of faith may open doors for his children, though he has passed, and all these links prove that heaven sees life not as a brief moment, but in the eternal stream. Knowing this, the soul complains less at trials, for they will see that their endurance opens doors for many others, and angels ensure no sacrifice is wasted. In deeper vision, it is clear that every thought sends out a frequency, and angels move in frequencies of light, while darkness moves in frequencies of fear and despair. So when the soul chooses thoughts of light, they are in tune with heaven, and that harmony draws angels closer than ever. This is the secret many ignore. They pray with lips while the mind doubts. They recite prayers while the heart still holds anger. And they wonder why angels do not act, but in the unseen realm, the law is clear. Angels can only work in harmony with true light, not empty words. Therefore, the path opens, not in outward ritual, but in inner transformation. And when transformation happens, doors open naturally, steps become firm, and the soul walks not in fear, but in the certainty they are never alone. It is clear also that angels have ranks, some set for individuals, some for communities, some for nations, and all operate in perfect order under the command of the Most High. So no event in history is beyond the watch and intervention of light. This explains why many times disasters that seemed ready to destroy humanity were stopped, because prayers rose, faithful souls stood, and angels intervened to preserve opportunity for the next generation. This truth shows that the power of prayer surpasses human thought. It not only changes individual fate, but can change the course of nations. And when prayer is joined with faithful action, it becomes a river sweeping away the plans of darkness. The conflict in the soul does not arise from outward events, but from the clash between the light that has just awakened and the darkness seeking to extinguish it. When a soul longs for the Redeemer, old powers rise at once, taking the shape of accusations, rigid reasoning, and even traditions that seem unshakable. In the book of Job, his friends spoke not only with their minds, but echoed the darkness that sought to keep him bound, pressing him to confess guilt to fit their frame of belief. But in that moment of siege, a deeper truth emerged, that darkness can only rejoice while the soul still doubts. And when Job cried out for the Redeemer, that was not defeat, but the arrow piercing the night, a cry that weakened every surface argument, because it awakened the strength of inner faith in the experiences of souls encountered in deep levels of consciousness. This very weakness is the moment when the seed of strength takes root. Many believe they must prove their righteousness before people, but the truth is there is no need to justify, no need to defend, only to cling to the one who redeems. That clinging is not desperation, but the recognition that all other foundations can crumble. Only one foundation stands firm, and this is why trials and darkness are not the end, but the beginning of rising. When a soul passes through the fire of accusation, through harsh words that seem from friends but echo the enemy, that soul learns the most important lesson, that truth is not proven by human tongues, but by steadfastness in faith. And that very steadfastness becomes armor, becomes strength against all temptations to surrender. The image of Job sitting in ashes with wounds all over his body is not the symbol of defeat, but of a soul laid bare before the Creator with nothing to hide, nothing to cling to. And in that nakedness, light shines most purely, like a seed that sprouts only when its hard shell is broken. So too, the soul blossoms when its disguises are stripped by trial. In many spiritual readings, this truth repeats. The more pressed the soul is, the greater the chance to reveal its depth. And if faith is chosen, then darkness breaks. But if resentment is chosen, then darkness strengthens. This is an unchanging law. And so trials do not come to destroy, but to separate, to expose true faith from false covering. There is a mystery few recognize, that the cries in the night are the strongest prayers, for when humans have nothing left to hold, the soul holds God, and that hand is never abandoned. This truth runs from Job's time to every soul today. Those who suffer loss, pain, loneliness, who fall in tears, yet still whisper, "My Redeemer lives," that is the moment heaven moves. Every accusation seeks to tear the soul from this faith. But when faith is kept, the soul not only survives trial, but matures. Like gold refined in fire, the hotter the fire, the purer it becomes. And this is the process all souls must pass. There is no shortcut but to go through the darkness, to learn that light does not come from outside, but from the one within. And once this truth is carved deep, all accusations fade. This is not only the story of one man long ago, but a mirror for every age. For every soul will face the dead end, where reason fails, where even friends and family may become tools of darkness. But it is in that dead end that the way opens, not a broad escape, but the narrow path of faith. And walking that path, the soul finds true freedom. This is the secret many avoid, because it does not promise instant comfort, but it brings something greater, the maturing of the soul, the union with the source of life, and that is the true victory. Libra longs for balance. Jophiel, beauty of God, grants them the ability to see harmony within chaos. Balance is not a motionless point, but the constant movement between two seeming opposites. Libra does not seek a lifeless scale, but the breathing rhythm of harmony. Jophiel, with the light of wisdom, does not hand them ready answers, but illuminates. So they see that within every change a subtle order is hidden. In moments when darkness surrounds the mind, Jophiel does not drive it away at once, but opens the eyes to recognize that even in suffering, beauty can be found. And when beauty is seen within brokenness, the soul no longer fears what it must pass through. Libra is called to understand that justice is not a cold scale, tipping to one side. True justice is the meeting of truth and mercy. Truth keeps the soul standing firm. Mercy keeps the soul tender. Without either, the scale collapses. And Jophiel constantly reminds that the light of wisdom is never rigid, but always gentle. Like dawn dispersing night, not with thunder, but with warmth that spreads, Libra souls often become entangled in hesitation. As they enter life, they see both sides and feel the weight of both. This easily makes them delay. Yet that very hesitation is the soil where wisdom is born, for only when the soul stands amid opposing calls and learns to listen for a deeper rhythm do they find the true way. Jophiel does not lead by direct answers, but by setting a mirror before the heart. So they see that within injustice there remains a chance for mercy, within pain a chance for love. And when this light shines, Libra becomes a bridge builder, not a spectator who judges from outside, but a bearer of harmony where division reigns. One truth must be stressed: wisdom is not apart from feeling. True wisdom is not cold reason, but the eye that sees through in every circumstance. And Jophiel teaches that seeing through is not for condemning, but for bringing light into dark places, for turning chaos into an opportunity for growth. And this is the key for every Libra soul. In the deep spiritual realm, Libra-marked souls are often tested by complex relationships. They are pulled to one side by strict justice and to the other by soft mercy. If they choose an extreme, they lose balance. But when they learn to hold both, a strange peace appears, a peace not dependent on whether all seems fair at the moment, but grounded in trust that a sacred order is hidden in all things, and from this trust they can bring light to others. Libra is not called to avoid decisions, but to stand in the tension of decision and allow the light of Jophiel to shine. This clarity is not always understood by others, so they may be seen as vague, yet in truth they are guarding the lamp of wisdom against harsh winds. And if they remain steadfast, they will become a source of light for many. Jophiel does not promise an easy road. Rather, the nearer they draw to the light of wisdom, the more trials they face. For the light exposes the illusions the soul clings to, and Libra must learn to let them go, to see that true beauty is not flawless surface, but naked truth lit by love. And when they see beauty in suffering and in incompletion and in chaos, they carry a strength no power can quench. The harmony they create is not a fixed state, but a dance between darkness and light, between justice and mercy, between humanity and God. And when this dance unfolds within the Libra soul, the world around them feels it, for the light of wisdom spreads more by presence than by many words. In the depth of the soul, Libra is entrusted as keepers of the gate of harmony. And when they let Jophiel guide them, the light of wisdom makes them witnesses that beauty is real, even within darkness, and that justice is not apart from mercy. This is the secret the Libra soul must bring to life. Scorpio cannot escape the depth of their own being, for their nature is to descend to the bottom of emotion, where the densest darkness resides and also where the strongest light can rise. Jeremiel, the angel of memory, does not lead them there to imprison, but to open the door, to look back on what has passed with new eyes, so that memory is no longer chains, but becomes a mirror for growth. Each wound preserved in memory is not meant to weaken, but to point the soul to the path home. And this is the process Scorpio must undergo in the unconscious. Every dream is a small review. At once, warnings and instructions that the soul leaves for itself. Jeremiel teaches that no dream is random. They are the refined language of the soul to bring Scorpio back, to reflect and to learn. Many fear dreams because they stir what was buried, yet what is buried holds the key to freedom. For when Scorpio dares to face them with wisdom's light, they discover that within wounds lie seeds of light, that where the pain is deepest, the greatest potential is hidden. The essence of judgment is not condemnation, but illumination. True judgment is not a whip, but a mirror. And Jeremiel gives Scorpio the capacity to use memory as a mirror to see not only past mistakes, but also courage, perseverance, and the seed of rebirth. Therefore, Scorpio souls that pass through this process often bear a fierce transformative power, able to step into darkness with tearful eyes and emerge with eyes shining. When a Scorpio soul learns not to fear memory, they realize that what once crushed them was, in fact, laying the foundation for maturity. Jeremiel whispers that no memory is meaningless. Every event and every tear has its place in the larger tapestry, and when the picture gradually appears, Scorpio begins to see the delicate design of God. This understanding turns their gaze from bitterness to gratitude, for without darkness, they would not find light. Without wounds, they would not discover inner strength. Many souls fear judgment because they connect it with punishment. But the truth is that the judgment of the soul is only to set things right. It is like a potter who sees a crack and repairs it, so the vessel may be whole. Judgment is meant for mending, not for destroying. And Jeremiel teaches Scorpio to practice judgment first, on themselves, in the light of love. When they succeed in this, they become guides to many other souls, lost in the darkness of memory. The transformative power of Scorpio lies in rebirth, and rebirth always begins with the death of something old. Memory is the ground where the old is buried, but also the soil where the new is planted. If they see memory only as a ghost, they will remain chained, but if they see it as a seed, they will find new life. And this is the lesson Jeremiel never ceases to teach. In the depths of spiritual experience, Scorpio is led into scenes of past life, of choices and mistakes, and is asked whether they dare to look back. This courage to look back is the threshold of maturity, for no one can turn a new page without closing the old one. Jeremiel grants them the courage to close the old without denial, to forgive without forgetting the lesson, to rise without discarding what has shaped them. This is what makes the Scorpio soul unique. The ability to descend to the bottom of memory and bring forth light, to enter judgment and not collapse but grow, to turn sorrow into pure energy for new life. For this reason, they become a symbol of rebirth in every tradition. What is most important is that Scorpio must understand that light does not come from fleeing memory, but from letting memory be illuminated by wisdom and love. When they do this, they not only free themselves, but also become instruments for Jeremiel to illuminate many other souls. For all carry memories, and all carry things they wish to forget. and only when someone dares to go first can others follow. The true strength of Scorpio does not lie in control, but in surrender to the light. Sagittarius is always driven by the desire to move beyond boundaries, carrying within the flame of seeking truth and meaning. Yet this very drive often turns into restlessness that keeps them from ever being content with the present. What they need is not endless running, but to let their fire be guided by divine light. The angel Zadkiel is placed beside Sagittarius to teach the lesson of release, for only when the soul lets go of old chains can the search become true freedom. Zadkiel bears the name of God's righteousness, not rigid justice, but liberating justice, so Sagittarius may understand that forgiveness is the doorway to new horizons. Forgiveness is not weakness, but the strength that cuts the invisible cord, binding them to the past. And once it is cut, the soul takes flight to higher realms. The journey of Sagittarius often leads them through trials of betrayal, disappointment, and unfulfilled dreams, carrying that weight like heavy baggage. But Zadkiel reminds them no journey can go far. If the soul drags stones of resentment, to seek truth, they must walk lightly. To see the wide sky, they must lay down old burdens. And so forgiveness is the only way. In the depths of spiritual experience, when Sagittarius dares to forgive, a strange expansion happens. Their heart is no longer confined by wounds, but becomes vast, like the sky they long for. And in that vastness, they see truth beyond all limits. Many mistake the search for truth as the gathering of knowledge, but the truth Zadkiel leads to does not come from books. It comes from inner release. When the soul is cleansed of resentment and fear, truth rises like the dawn, found not in distant places, but in breath and in every moment. Sagittarius bears the image of the archer, and the arrow they release is not only aspiration, but the symbol of focus. Zadkiel teaches that an arrow flies straight only when the hands are steady, not trembling under heavy weight. And so forgiveness is not merely moral teaching, but the condition for reaching their goal. For forgiveness keeps the soul's arrow flying far, without veering off course by heavy vibrations. Another lesson Sagittarius must learn is to distinguish true freedom from the illusion of freedom. Many run in all directions, thinking they are free, but are only fleeing. True freedom comes when the soul is no longer bound by memory, no longer ruled by wounds. Then every step, wherever they go, carries the fragrance of the wide sky. Zadkiel opens to Sagittarius the vision that forgiveness is not only for others, but also for themselves. For often the soul locks itself in a prison of self-blame, refusing to move forward because of past mistakes. But God does not keep memory to condemn. He keeps it to teach. And once the lesson is learned, the door opens. Forgiving oneself becomes the key to a new journey. The energy of Sagittarius, if unguided easily, becomes restless wandering, running without ever arriving. But when enlightened by Zadkiel, that energy becomes a guiding flame for many other souls, because in their own journey of forgiveness and release, they become witnesses that truth is not a destination at the horizon's end, but an experience revealed when the heart is light. In deep dreams, Sagittarius souls are often led to wide lands, endless roads, and asked if they will leave their burdens behind to step into freedom. If they nod, wings open. If they refuse, the path circles in loops, and that choice decides their whole growth. The wisdom Zadkiel gives is not dry knowledge, but practical truth, that forgiveness is the greatest power to open the way, that compassion is the strongest energy to rise, that freeing oneself from the past is the first step to see truth. And when Sagittarius grasps this, nothing can prevent them from reaching the heights their soul longs for. Therefore, the journey of Sagittarius is not only a personal search, but a testimony for many others. They become a living sign that truth cannot be found when the heart is heavy, that light appears only to those who forgive, and that true freedom comes only to those who dare to let go. Capricorn enters life carrying the weight of mountains upon their shoulders, their soul always directed upward, though the path is sharp and steep. For this reason, Michael is placed beside them as a warrior of light to teach. The true strength is not found in outward power, but in discipline and loyalty to the sacred purpose. Capricorn cannot reach the summit by ambition alone, for ambition standing by itself becomes a chain, but when joined with discipline and Michael's guidance, it becomes wings, lifting them beyond every trial. Michael does not promise that the journey will be easy. Instead, he places the sword of fire in their hand and teaches them to use it to cut away fear, delay, and small compromises that can cause the soul to stumble. If Capricorn lets discipline slip, the mountain turns into a maze. But when they hold to discipline, the mountain becomes an altar where the soul meets God. In the deeper experience of the soul, Capricorn is often tested by situations that demand long perseverance. When others give up, they must continue. When every voice around urges an easier path, Michael reminds them that light never comes by shortcuts. And Capricorn's true strength is not in running fast, but in climbing steadily step by step. Those born under Capricorn tend to be severe with themselves, at times to the point of dryness, but Michael teaches that discipline is not a chain, but a sword, keeping the path straight. Severity only becomes dangerous when separated from love's light, but when lit by sacred purpose, it becomes the power that holds them firm when storms rise. The Capricorn soul must learn that climbing the mountain is not for their own summit alone, but to open the path for others. And so Michael places them in positions of unavoidable responsibility, burdens that seem heavy, but are in truth training hands. And when they bear them with loyalty, they become pillars on which others lean. A secret few understand is that Capricorn's strength lies not in the final outcome, but in the transformation through the journey. Every step of the climb is a sharpening. Every fall and rising again is the shaping of the soul. And Michael stands present to remind that there is no failure if the soul still walks on. Failure only comes by quitting. But if they continue, every stumble is but a stepping stone to maturity. Capricorn is called to combine perseverance with faith. For perseverance without faith turns rigid, and faith without perseverance fades in trial. Only when both unite does the soul reach the summit, where victory is not of the self, but union with God's will. In dreams and revelations, many Capricorn souls see themselves at the edge of a cliff, unsure how to go on. But when they call out, the light of Michael appears, placing in their hand the sword of fire and the shield of light, showing them that true weapons are not for defeating outer enemies, but for conquering inner ones, weariness, doubt, the urge to quit. Once they conquer themselves, every mountain becomes only a path. Michael teaches the lesson of loyalty, not only to ideals, but to inner light. Thus, the Capricorn soul must learn to remain faithful, even when unseen, to labor, even when unpraised, to endure, even when alone, for it is that hidden loyalty that forms the unshakable foundation of true strength. One important truth: Capricorn often feels lonely in their path because they are called to a road few will choose. Yet this loneliness is not punishment, but opportunity to meet God in the deepest intimacy. For when none else remain, Michael stands beside them, reminding they are never truly alone. And from that solitude the light shines out, turning them into guides for other souls seeking their own summits. The strength of Capricorn is also patience. The patience to see that every season has its time, that harvest cannot be forced before seed is ripe. And Michael teaches them to trust the process, to believe each small step today is building tomorrow's peak. This trust keeps them from despair at delay or distraction by easy roads. Aquarius is called to open the gate of a new era, carrying within a longing for freedom, but without Uriel's guidance, that freedom turns into chaos. Uriel is the light of truth, the lamp that reveals secrets hidden in the darkness of human knowledge. Aquarius is often driven to seek what lies beyond boundaries, breaking tradition, resisting limits, yet only when Uriel's light enters does their search avoid illusion and become a path to true wisdom. Aquarius carries the energy of change, but that change can destroy or renew depending on the foundation within. Uriel teaches that true freedom is not the breaking of every bond, but the discernment of which must be kept and which must be cut. And it is this discernment that makes Aquarius a bearer of reforming light rather than a sower of disorder. Their greatest responsibility is to learn to hear the whisper within, for their soul is easily carried away by grand dreams while missing the small truth. Yet Uriel places within them a mirror to remind that true wisdom begins with honesty before self. If the soul dares to face the truth, they can open new horizons for the community. But if they flee, they become slaves to illusions of freedom they themselves created. Aquarius is often tested by the need to stand alone in perspective, their vision different and misunderstood. But Uriel stands beside them to remind that solitude need not be feared, for new light only appears when someone dares to step out of the crowd, and difference joined with truth becomes a seed planted in the future, where many will one day see the path Aquarius opened as their own. On the inner path, Aquarius must learn balance between reason and intuition, for they often swing to extremes. Uriel teaches that true wisdom is the union of both. Reason gives structure so they do not drift. Intuition gives flame so they do not grow dry. And only when both join does freedom become power to set free. One of Aquarius's great secrets is the ability to glimpse the possibilities of the future. But such vision is only seed. Without discipline, the seed dies. Without truth, it turns to illusion. And so Uriel continually tests them with moments where they must choose truth, even when painful, and only then does vision sprout into reality. Many times Aquarius feels burdened, as if carrying the weight of humanity's future. But Uriel reminds them the soul is never called to bear it alone. They are but a channel for light, not to boast, but to serve the greater plan. Aquarius often falls into the illusion of being above others because they see what most cannot. Yet Uriel teaches that wisdom is not for self-exaltation, but for humility. If light is not joined with humility, it becomes fire that burns. But with humility, it becomes a lamp that guides. A vital lesson is patience, for Aquarius often runs ahead of their time, seeing what others do not. Eager to change now, but Uriel shows that every season has its hour. If seed is sown, before its time it dies. If change is forced, before the moment it collapses. And true wisdom is knowing to wait for God's timing, not the ego's. In visions, Aquarius is shown melting glaciers, symbols of change, slow but sure. A reminder that freedom does not come by storm that sweeps all away, but by steady flow that melts chains. And Uriel's truth is pledge of that process. When Aquarius learns to serve light instead of ego, they become water bearers for humanity, carrying streams of knowledge, renewal, and release from ignorance. Freedom then ceases to be concept and becomes reality, planted in every soul. At the center of this path is the lesson of finding freedom in obedience, for without obedience there is no order. Without order, freedom becomes chaos. And Uriel teaches that obedience is not loss of self, but placing self into the stream of divine will. Pisces carries within the deep flow of the soul, easily dissolved in emotion and borderless dreams. And so they need Sandalphon, the angel of prayer, to connect them to true light instead of drifting in illusion. For prayer is not only a whisper sent to heaven, but the anchor of the soul amid the vast sea. When Pisces kneels in stillness, Sandalphon turns tears into pearls, lifted to the throne. And in that very fragility, strength is born, because the soul knows it cannot endure alone, but needs the hand from above. Pisces is easily captivated by dreams, bearing such empathy that they merge with others' pain. Yet this very gift makes them lose themselves. Sandalphon teaches that compassion only redeems when joined with prayer, for if it stops at emotion, the soul will be swept away. But when the pain is lifted in prayer, it becomes healing energy, not only for them, but for those named in the plea. Pisces often faces trials that teach them to discern between inspiration from God and illusions, born of emotion, for strong intuition can turn into delusion without guidance. Sandalphon builds the bridge between feeling and truth, reminding that intuition must be refined through prayer. Only then does it become a tool of clarity instead of a distorted mirror. Deep in the Pisces soul lies a longing for union with the source, seeking oneness with the unseen. This makes them both noble and vulnerable, for true union is not vanishing into nothing, but entering living communion with God. Sandalphon shows this way by turning each small prayer into a stream that joins the divine ocean, each supplication a stone laid on the path to communion. Pisces is often tested with profound loneliness, feeling that none fully understand their heart. But Sandalphon teaches that it is in such solitude the soul hears God most clearly, when worldly noise no longer hides his voice. That silence is not emptiness, but the space where God enters, turning loneliness into encounter. On their inner path, Pisces must learn to hold boundaries, for too much empathy makes them easily used. But Sandalphon reminds them that prayer is the sacred fence that protects without hardening. When they place others' burdens into prayer, they are no longer crushed, but become channels through which divine light touches those in need. Pisces bears the mark of sacrifice, often choosing loss for others' peace. But sacrifice without truth creates endless cycles. Sandalphon teaches that true sacrifice is not self-exhaustion, but offering in prayer, where the soul gives yet also receives strength from above. So sacrifice does not erase them, but makes them instruments of light's melody. In dreams, Pisces often receives hazy visions, but if placed in prayer, their meaning becomes clear. For Sandalphon turns scattered pieces into a whole picture, reminding that no revelation exists apart from the source of light, and every dream is an invitation into deeper communion, not a trap of curiosity. When Pisces learns unceasing prayer, their life becomes a stream of healing. Their words and presence bring peace, for their soul is like an instrument tuned by Sandalphon, sounding the gentle melody of mercy, and in that vibration many broken hearts are mended. Pisces is given the gift to touch the deepest mysteries of divine love, but to keep its purity, they must continually be refined through prayer. Without it, love turns into dependence and overwhelm, but kept in light it becomes cleansing water, dissolving bitterness, soothing pain, and opening the door to true union. Sandalphon also teaches Pisces that prayer is not always words, but a way of life. Every loving act, every gentle gaze, every humble silence is a living prayer. When the soul grasps this, their whole life becomes a hymn to the Creator. Every soul carries within a unique note, and when that note is awakened in truth, the universe resounds as a sacred symphony. The journey through the 12 zodiac signs and their guardian angels is not merely self-discovery, but a mirror reflecting the whole process of the soul. Each step, each sign, each angel reflects an aspect within us all. For in the depths there is no division, but the unity of the whole, the trials, the darkness. The lessons each sign endures are but symbolic language teaching the soul to look inward, to realize that light is not far but within, and that the guardian angel is not only beside them, but the echo of the divine spirit within, calling the soul to awaken. The most important truth this path teaches is that all strength comes from the union of the human and the source of light, that no angel acts apart from the soul's cooperation. Every prayer, every step in truth, every choice for light over darkness opens the door for angels to act. And through this, the soul sees its responsibility in the greater plan of all angelic images. The deepest impression is companionship. No soul is ever fully alone. Even when they think themselves abandoned, an unseen hand holds them, a whisper leads them. And this awareness frees the soul from despair, giving courage for the long nights of trial. The final lesson is not about remembering angel names or details of each sign, but about learning to live in truth, in love, in communion. For that is where every angelic guide converges. That is the destination where the soul finds union with the Creator. When the soul learns to see beauty in suffering, freedom in obedience, to turn pain into prayer and memory into light, then they are no longer bound by cycles, but step into the vast life where time is no longer a chain, but a river returning them to the source. The great truth every soul must remember is that light is not reserved for a few. No angel is given only to one sign, but all the wisdom of heaven is open to anyone willing to receive. The zodiac is but a mirror. The reality is that the soul and God are always joined, and anyone can call upon the light if they long and seek with sincerity. When the path reaches its end, what remains is not the display of knowledge, but the quiet of a heart that understands that divine companionship is real, that every trial is an opportunity, that no pain is wasted when placed in light, and that even the smallest prayer touches the throne. The essence of the journey is the realization that every soul is called to become light, not only to receive, but to give, not only to be comforted, but to be a source of comfort. True union is not private peace, but flowing with divine love. So it spreads through every word, every act, every silence. When this truth sinks deep, the soul begins to live as an angel among humans, without wings, without titles, but with a presence that dissolves surrounding darkness. This is the final mark. Humanity is not defined by weakness, but by the capacity to let light shine through weakness, turning it into testimony of divine strength. In this crystallized awareness, all noise falls silent, leaving only the stillness of a soul that knows it is never alone and that heaven always moves to uphold every step. When the soul opens in trust, light is no longer far but becomes breath, heartbeat, and the very life flowing within. This is the closing echo, not an ending but an opening, an invitation to continue, for the journey does not end in understanding but in living, so that every day becomes a testimony of divine presence, and life itself becomes an unceasing prayer, a hymn of union with eternity,